Welcome learners. In this session, we intend to start with our calculator app process wherein I'm going to teach to you how you can be adding input fields into your app. Now, when it comes to any kind of a registration form, you'll notice that there is a lot of fields that they ask: name, phone number, username, etc. etc. How do the entire form gets created? In fact, you'll also see the user experience to turn around in keyboard. Let's say if you're trying to type an email, it gives you the @ keyboard. If you're trying to put your phone number, it tries to give you the phone keypad. What goes behind into the keyboard animations and also what goes behind validations, we're going to learn in depth in this video. So tune in. Let's dive into the session wherein, using our prior knowledge, we are going to create a very simple looking calculator app wherein over here we'll be having two input fields. So let me just mark them over here as two input fields. So let's say you type in here 23 and following 15, and when you click on the add button, then you get answer as 38. So on and so forth. As you try clicking upon different arithmetic operations, depending upon what you want to do, in that way the answer shall be updated. The entire motive is not to create a very attractive calculator app, but to get you acquainted with Dart programming and the knowledge that we have carried from the basics. With that being said, so here I am heading over in my lib directory, creating a new project or new directory, my mistake, as calculator. Next, I'm going to create calculator screen. Now, before I step to this entire diagram, I'm going to break it down into small pieces. And like we have done into our timer app, at the back of your mind, you're going to keep this kind of a design. And then at the center of the screen, I'll say inside calculator screen. Well, this stands as a simple text, and we will try to remove this as soon as the test is over. So here we have our class calculator screen. Eventually, we are going to convert to a stateful widget, but for now, because the present screen is entirely stateless, or in fact has no moving component, I will always start from a stateless widget. Now let's try writing a scaffold. Well, why a scaffold? Look at the design. This entire rectangle spawns from topmost corner to the bottommost corner, which basically I'm going to put inside the scaffold. So at the center of the screen, I'll put a text inside calculator screen. Now what I'm going to try and do is, when we had our home screen, it had the button to open the timer screen. Let's try creating one more button, and this time when you tap on it, it's going to take you to the calculator screen. So I'll put start calculator, and then when you tap on it, the on press function is going to navigate and push a new screen, and I'll call that screen inside the context. So I'll put over here one arrow that basically would say, from here onwards, we want to see the calculator screen to be there. Upon hot reload, I'll try to open my visor, and then share my phone screen. And yes, as you guys would notice, this is my start calculator button, and when I tap on it, it takes me to this particular screen. Well, the first part for the testing, according to the diagram, went well. Well, what I'll try and do is also have the back button, or basically the app bar, which kind of tells me in which screen I would be in. Hence, let me now move on to my scaffold. As we have seen, there are different sections inside my scaffold, and here is my app bar. I'll put the color as deep orange, followed by the title to be calculator screen. Now notice, whenever I would do any widget changes and I want to test how it would appear, I would surely use the Flutter hot reload feature. That's because the moment I tap and just move to my screen, you'll notice that it refreshes almost instantly. In this way, I'm trying to save very precious time, and then you probably would be doing this a lot many times when you're trying to develop the app. In fact, you're going to witness right now how many times I'm going to do hot reload to kind of create this screen design. Moving ahead, I'm going to take out this sample text and in fact replace with one text field for input. So over here, now at the center of the screen, I'm adding something called as a text form field. Let's try doing a hot reload. Do you guys see the blank underline? And when I tap on it, the QWERTY keypad shows up. The first thing which I would want to do is give rounded edges, or in fact outline border, to this particular text form field. So I'll put over here decoration, input decoration, and then something called as focused border. So I'll say that I need a border with 2 pixels thickness. So I'll put border side with width of 2 pixels and color, let's see, as green. Now when I do a hot reload, do you notice there is one particular box, but it kind of sticks to the left and the right edges. Let me cut this, put inside of a padding widget. Well, what's a padding? Now over here, I can mention that left side I need 20 pixel spacing, right side 20 pixel spacing, and then this child widget shall get displayed. So doing this now has shrunk my text form field from left and right, and they are no longer sticking to the edges. You can try playing along with this width and check what is the thickness that you would love to have. For example, I think that the width of 5 just looks good. Moving ahead, when I try to restart the app, I would want your attention to be on the text form field, and what do you notice? That green color outline which was supposed to be there has vanished. Well, that's because when it comes to the input decoration, there are different decorations I could be adding. For example, I'll quickly do a duplicate on the entire focused border. How did I do that? I pressed simple Ctrl D. Next, I'll make it to be enabled border, and this time once it is enabled, I'll turn it to be green, and if it is focused, I'll turn it to be blue. So let's try and see this time how does it appear. So here's my input field with a green color, which kind of indicates that it is enabled. When I tap on it, did you notice the background or the edges has changed to blue? Well, that's because over here I marked it to be enabled. However, before I do so, I also want the border radius to be a bit smoother. Hence, if I try now with 20, you'll notice that it has got more curved endings. And I can copy this and add it over here, which kind of will apply the same property to the enabled border property also. Since we have completed with the text form field, now what I'll try and show it to you is how we can set up validations. What is validation? Let's imagine a scenario wherein you would want this entire screen and it's kind of a registration field. You have name followed by phone followed by address, so on and so forth. So you probably have 4 to 5 different fields, and what do you want is no input field remains empty. Well, you just do not want to add empty data into your database. Hence, what I'm stepping towards is validation. What I'm going to try and do is collapse the decoration and set up something called as validator attribute. So inside the string, I'll put this input. So if my input is not equal to null and the input is not empty, then no problem. Else, if it is empty, then I'm going to scream at the user, enter valid data. Now, let's try seeing this, how it could be done, wherein I'll be adding my first button, and let's see, I'll put this as add. Now, I'm going to put a column that will be putting this text to form field and the add button one below the another. So here I am. My bad. Let me just take only the text to form field. So here I am adding a column. Below the column will be my filled button. The caption on the button is going to be add, and then over here, now when I do a hot reload, did you notice I have an add button and it has gone to the topmost part of the screen. As you might be seeing behind the screen, I'll put main axis alignment dot center, which kind of would make the things come to the center. But how do we get the value that's inside of the text field? For example, I'll put over here number 45. How do I get this number or this digits 45? Plus, when I tap on it, it kind of shows the QWERTY keypad. Had it been a calculator, I should restrict it to accept just the number inputs. Well, these are some customizations that the text form field offers. Let me show you something called as keyboard type, wherein I can mention that I'll need either text, date, time, etc., etc., of which I'll take the number keypad. Upon hot reload, now when I tap on it, did you notice the keyboard just switched to the number keypad? Lastly, what we are going to try and do is putting something called as a text editing controller. Now what exactly is the text editing controller? So let's see. Over here I typed 45 and I want to get the digits inside of the field. So I'll assign this controller, that is number 1 controller, inside my text to form field. Next, only to do a bit amount of testing, I'll say number in first controller, and then I'll take my number 1 controller dot text and do a hot reload. Let's see, we put 43 here and then click on add. Did you notice it actually extracted the digits outside, or in fact from the text to form field, and gave it to us in the controller? Well, that was the objective of me creating the number 1 controller. So on, what we are going to try and do is now put up the validation. So here we are adding something called as a global key. Now, when it comes to Flutter keys, they are helpful for identifying the components uniquely. Just look onto our app. I want to uniquely identify and give the error if my input field for the first input field is blank. Similarly, if someone is trying to put a blank entry into my second field, I just want to show an error over there. This is a form key, or in fact a global key, which will help us exactly to achieve this objective. Let me try cutting this, adding a form, and then mention the form key. Now inside the press for my add button, what I'm going to do is write a if condition. So I'll say form key dot current state if it is not equal to null, and the form key dot current state dot validate, then the form is valid over here. So let me show you with the help of an example, how does this form, or in fact how does this key even get all the validations to be resolved. So this is blank. I'm going to press add and it says enter valid data. How did this thing show up? Now look over here, this validator attribute. If it is empty, it's going to shout at the user enter valid data. However, if I try inputting some value and then clicking on it, it just does not show that error. In this way, you can use the form key to uniquely identify how you can have an entire this big registration form to be there, and that to set up custom validations over it. If you see my code, there is a form widget. Inside of the form widget, I added the form key. That is, the The fields which are going to be there as part of the column is now going to be controlled by this form key, and hence we are trying to validate using the form key. If the form is valid, we'll try to do the calculation. If it's invalid, we'll keep shouting at the user to enter a valid number. Hopefully the entire demonstration for the text editing controller key as well as the validation made a lot of sense. In the next session, what we intend to do is complete the entire design for the app, wherein we have the entire calculator app, the prototype to be ready. So stay tuned and keep learning with Hoping Minds.